You do not want to do throttle only in a high gear from a stop. And if you're a newer rider, I would recommend that you do the same. I've never had cruise control on a mid-drive, so this is a little bit interesting. Oh my. Yeah, do not recommend that. This is the Velotric Discover M, where M stands for mid-drive, and don't click off yet because this mid-drive has a throttle. That alone makes this a pretty big deal because this is Velotric's first mid-drive, and they didn't play it safe. This bike is filled with higher end features and a price tag to match. Now, we've reviewed every Velotric e-bike, so we have a unique perspective about where this bike fits in the lineup. In this review, first I'll walk you through all the components, I'll walk you through all the advanced settings within the display and the app. Then we'll take it for a ride because everyone, including myself, wants to know how this mid-drive performs. I'll also compare this to the Discover 3 so you know which one is right for you. At the end, I'll break down the key considerations if you're considering the Discover M. But first, let's take a closer look. High level, Velotric now has over 1,200 dealers and apparently are offering test rides at every single location. So don't take my word for it, though I think I have unique perspectives given I've ridden hundreds of e-bikes. Current pricing is $24.99, though you can save on that price by using our discount code in the description. Also, if you use our link, it's a free way to support content like this. Or you can simply scan the QR code on your screen before you buy. Thanks for your support. Now I want to dive into the mid-drive right away, but first let's break down the Discover 3 versus the Discover M. While they share a similar frame or frames, as you'll see here in a second, the Discover 3 is a hub drive e-bike coming in at $500 cheaper at $19.99. On paper, the Discover 3 will be more so for effortless cruising than a mid-drive, though we'll see how that translates to once I hit the road. The Discover M, or really any mid-drive e-bike, is going to be better suited for someone who wants a little bit more of a natural riding experience. It also has an upgraded drivetrain, and the Discover M has a slightly bigger battery, so that paired with the mid-drive motor should get you more range. Plus, while both bikes have air suspension forks, the Discover M has rebound adjustment. But besides those few things, these bikes are identical, but it's really the mid-drive that makes the key difference. Let's talk about that. What you're looking at is Velotric's Velocore Pro motor. It offers 500 watts of nominal power, 960 watts of peak power, 100 newton meters of torque with a maximum torque of apparently 130 newton meters. And yes, like other Velotric e-bikes, this one engaged with a torque sensor or a cadence sensor, your choice. Now, mid-drive versus hub drive, the biggest thing is that your mid-drive motor is actually driving the chain, so you can leverage the gears. That's compared to a hub drive e-bike. The hub motor is completely independent of the drivetrain. So you can see the mid-drive motor is actually driving the chain. And of course, I can change gears as well. If this was the Discover 3, I would hit the throttle and you would not see the chain move. Next, let's talk about sizing. Velotric offers this bike in regular or large, accommodating riders down to 5'2" up to 6'7". I'm 6 feet tall with a 32-inch inseam, and my wife is 5'5". Note the nice standover height here, making this bike very accessible. Speaking of, no high step version. Total payload capacity is 440 pounds, 66 pounds on the rear rack. On our scale, the bike weighs in at 64 pounds with the battery. Removing the battery, it's 54 pounds. It's offered in two different colors, this olivine green and platinum silver. You get Tektro hydraulic disc brakes with 180mm rotors, front and rear. The front wheel attaches with a through axle. The brown sidewall tires come from Kenda. They're 27.5 by 2.4 inches wide. Mixed terrain tread, a little bit more tread than on the Discover 3. The air suspension front fork offers 80mm of travel. Unscrewing this allows you to access the air valve. And no, don't use a regular pump. You'll need a shock pump. I'll link one down in the description in case you're buying the Velotric Discover M. You'll want to reference the sticker on the fork that will tell you the PSI that corresponds with your weight. And that's what makes air suspension forks unique. You can really dial them in. There's a lockout adjustment on the right And on the right side, the rebound adjust. You get metal fenders front and rear. There's 4 mounting points for Velotric's front basket. The front light is 500 lumens, runs off the main battery. Running lights in the rear, when you brake, they do go brighter. And then you have turn signals, left and right. There's nice cable management into the stem. Swept back handlebars for a nice upright riding position, plus an adjustable stem so you can lift them up higher or more further in front of you. There's matching Tektro hydraulic disc brake levers with motor cutoffs, locking ergonomic rubber grips, a left-hand thumb throttle, included bell, and the Shimano CUES 9-speed trigger shifter. There's a USB-C port located underneath the controls. Next, the controls and display, 7-button control pad on the left, power button on top. You have battery capacity, time, the class it's in, which is hot swappable via this bottom button. Class 1, top speed of 20 miles per hour while pedaling. Class 2, still 20 miles per hour, but enables the throttle. And of course, Class 3, 28 miles per hour while pedaling, but no throttle. Speed front and center. For the pedal assist levels, you have off, eco, trail, sport, boost, and new. For this bike is auto. We'll test that out. And below that, torque. That means I'm using the torque sensor. While you're riding, you can hold the M button to swap it between torque or cadence. You can engage walk mode by holding pedal assist down. You can turn the lights on by holding pedal assist up. Indicator at the top of the screen. At the bottom, you have trip distance and trip time. Hit the M button to cycle through different information. Estimated range, which does change depending on your pedal assist level and average speed. Motor temp and controller temp. CO2 saved and max speed, odometer and total time, cadence and calories, rider power and bike power, and back to trip distance. To get into the advanced settings, you can hold the M button. First, we have speed limit, which you can customize class 1, 2, or 3. Say if I want class 3 to only go to 24 miles per hour. We have cruise control. We'll turn that on so I can show it off. Sensor swap, if you want to do it here. Next, experience. For riding, you can set it to slow, smooth, or turbo. And for the throttle, you can set it to slow, smooth, and turbo. You can clear your trip data, add one of your NFC cards, which I'll do right now. We'll go to bind. Now what's cool is when I turn off the bike and turn it back on, it's going to prompt for my card. And there you go, the bike is unlocked. We have Connect to App, which I'll show you in a second. Next, we have Find My, both Apple Find My and for us Android users out there, so happy to see that they now have Find Hub. There's Heart Rate Connect, rear light mode. You can change how the rear light performs depending on your preference. You can turn the turn signal click on or off, auto light, screen brightness, auto power off, sensor calibration, ride tuning, which you can also do in the app, customize each pedal assist level, throttle sync, I'll talk about that in the first person riding footage, time setting, and finally version info. You can turn the left and right turn signals on right here. And yes, there's a sound to let you know that the turn signal is on. Hit it again to turn it off. And that's it for the controls. Next, let's connect to the app. I'll add a new bike, select Discover M, scan the QR code. We'll call it the eBike Escape DM. Now within the app, you have access to bike settings. You can access a lot of the same settings in the display, but there's a few I want to call out. So first off, we have custom mode. That allows you to take full control over your bike, setting the top speed to what you want for pedaling or the throttle. So we'll turn that on. So within custom, I can change the top speed to 28 miles per hour, though just keep in mind, then this isn't really technically an electric bike, so perhaps for off-road use only. But what I'd personally do is change it to 20 miles per hour. So it's a class 3 bike in the sense that I can pedal up to 28, though throttle will still stop at 20. And you also have experience that you might want to turn things down or up depending on your ability. The next setting you want to be aware of is ride tuning. I think it's just easier to do within the app. So for all the pedal assist levels, you can select max torque, assistance, and finally assisted start. I'm going to leave the rest alone, but I'm going to max out boost so we can see how it feels. Next, firmware update. It's always a good idea to make sure your bike is up to date. Looks like I have to update the display and controller before my ride. And finally, the last thing I want to call out here is the ride tracking. So if I select start riding, it's going to track my rides. And of course, when you're done, you can stop it. And what's fun is you can tap on your profile icon and you can view your rides over days, weeks, months, and years. And that's it for the Velotric app and controls. The battery is top load, so it's very easy to remove and put back. Keys enter on the right side. Turn to the right, that will pop the battery out. This is a 48 volt, 16 amp hour battery. You can get an idea of the charge by pushing this button right here. The battery itself is certified to UL2271. The entire bike's electronics are certified to UL2849. Even more than that, this battery is IPX7 rated, so I guess if you wanted to dunk it in water, you can dry it off and put it back in the bike and it will be just fine. The frame is certified to IPX6 for water ingress. So basically, you don't have to worry about riding in the rain. For additional protection, I always recommend our battery bags. These are available at shop.ebikeescape.com along with some other high quality accessories. It's waterproof and flame resistant, and when you roll it up, you have a nice grab handle. And speaking of, the battery has a nice handle on it as well. You can charge the battery with this port when it's off the bike, or when the battery is in the bike by lifting this spring cover. To put the battery back in, terminals first, note the tab, line that up, and snap into place. To charge the bike, you get a 3 amp charger with a wall mount. So it will take between 5 and 6 hours to charge this battery up from empty. Velotric also includes their manual, some class stickers, and of course some tools for assembly. There's plastic pedals, a rear-mounted kickstand, and here we have the disc rotor, but this extra piece is actually the speed sensor for the mid-drive motor. That's a new design. Velotric really prioritizes comfort, and this seat has a little bit more give than we typically see, more of a memory foam. And then you have one of my favorite accessories, a suspension seat post. And don't forget, you can adjust the preload at the bottom to customize it for your weight. The rear rack has a max load of 66 pounds, has pannier hangers, but more than that, this is a MIC HD rack. What does that mean? Well, it works with any MIC accessory on the market, including the ones we sell at shop.ebikeescape.com. This is the Big Daddy, which I really like. You'll see why in a second. But simply slide in the front, and then you get a MIC key. Push that in, and your bag is now locked to the frame. But this one's nice because it has expanded storage up top. Gives you a little extra room. But more than that, you have roll-down panniers. You can put your water bottle in the rear. And then to remove the bag, simply use your MIC key, push in, and lift up. In the rear is a Shimano CUES derailleur. Their replacement for a lot of the entry-level derailleurs that they used to sell. I really like it. Gearing is 11 to 46 teeth, 9 speeds. Through axle attachment in the rear. And up front, a 46 tooth narrow wide chainring. And there's 2 mounting points on the seat tube for perhaps a folding lock or water bottle cage. The cables run through the frame very nicely. With that, let's get into some first-person riding footage. We'll see how this mid-drive motor performs at slow and fast speeds, as well as up our hill climb test. All right, let's start with throttle alone, and keeping in mind that no throttle experience on a mid-drive, at least that I've experienced, is perfect. That's of course because the motor is driving the chain, so you start in a lower gear and then you need to shift up. So just bear that in mind. I have it set to class 2. All right, here we go, 3, 2, 1, throttle only, and I'll shift up. You do not want to do throttle only in a high gear from a stop. I'm in 4th gear now and it looks like we got up to 20. So it's just not as smooth of an experience compared to, say, the Discover 3 where the motor is independent of the drivetrain and you can just throttle only up to 20, no shifting needed. I will take the throttle on a mid-drive any day of the week because there are some nice benefits. Just keep in mind, it's a little jerky sometimes from a stop. I did turn it down too slow, and if you're a newer rider, I would recommend that you do the same. You do not need any more power from this motor with the throttle. All right, let's briefly talk about cruise control because this bike has it. I'm going to hold this bottom button here, and there we go. Cruise control is enabled. I've never had cruise control on a mid-drive, so this is a little bit interesting. I can shift down, I could shift up, and the bike just wants to hold me at 12, 11 miles an hour. And there we go, the motor just kicked on. So I'm not sure if that's because I started pedaling, but that's cruise control. I think it's better suited for the Discover 3, however. All right, let's talk about throttle sync. I have it turned on for the cadence sensor, off for the torque sensor. Again, because it's using the gears, this will be a little bit more interesting to talk about, but I'll try to do my best. So I will quick swap into cadence mode, and I'm going to go in 4th gear here and throttle only. It looks like the motor is backing off at 12 miles an hour, and I'm in eco. Now if I quick swap into torque, there we go. I am not limited by the speed in eco. So I'm cruising up to 17, 18 miles an hour. Again, same gear. So with the throttle sync, it just makes it a little bit more accessible if you want it to be. So a cool feature. All right, and now let's talk about the experience while pedaling. Remember, all these pedal assist levels are customizable. I left them all the same except for boost. I just maxed that out. So we'll see how that does in a little bit. But starting in eco, cadence sensor. What's nice with a mid-drive is it's just a very smooth riding experience. I'm going to shift up though. It looks like 4th gear. Remember, a cadence sensor, as long as I'm pedaling, I will get power from the motor. That's compared to the torque sensor that we'll talk about in a little bit. That measures how much power I'm putting in and amplifies it. The cadence sensor on a mid-drive is actually fairly rare. I think most people buying this bike will keep it in torque sensor mode, but let me know what you think in the comment section. So 11, 12 miles an hour in eco. Let's go up into trail. I did shift up to 5th gear. And this is actually a decent bit of power. Looks like we're cutting off around 16 miles an hour, but I need to go in 6th gear. All right, let's go into sport mode. It actually feels like my cadence has to be decently fast for it to actually pick up. Let's do a test quick and just slow down. So yeah, it wants a certain cadence, it seems, in order to give me the power from the motor. So sport, 18 miles an hour, and boost. I do have it set to class 2, so 20 miles per hour will be the top speed. And so, yeah, 7th gear. Remember, that's of 9 and very easy to comfortably cruise at 20 miles an hour. And I could make it more difficult on myself by shifting up. Got to remember to shift down when you're stopping. Otherwise, you'll cause unnecessary wear on your drivetrain. You can tell I'm not used to that because I forgot to shift down. All right, now I'm going to quick change into class 3 mode, and we'll leave it in cadence sensor mode. Boost, shift up to 7th. There's 8th gear. It is a bit windy. There's 25. That's 9th gear. And it looks like 25 miles an hour. All right, and I love the ability to quick swap into torque mode. I'm going to shift all the way down. And I think this is where this bike probably is going to shine. We'll see. Shift down some more here. And we'll just start here in 3rd gear. And actually a decent amount of takeoff. So 3rd gear, 10 miles an hour, nice and easy. I'm going to shift up to 4th gear. Remember, the more power that I put in, the more power I'm going to get from that motor. So just a little bit more power. Again, you have the gears playing in here. So there's 13 miles an hour. Shift up to 5th gear. And it's nice you can see the power bar and the motor responding to what you're doing. So pretty easy to still cruise at 14 miles an hour, plus or minus in eco. All right, now we're in trail. We'll leave it in 5th gear. 15 miles an hour, shift up to 6th gear, so it's a little bit easier for me to put in effort. Shift up to 7th gear. There's 20 miles an hour. Not too hard at all. Let's go into sport. Yeah, nice and easy. See, this is the thing. With this torque sensor, I can still cruise at 20 miles per hour. So kind of why use the Cadence sensor in my opinion. All right, and a little bit more power in sport. Let's see what we get to. Certainly in the 20s, 22, 23. All right, I'm going to shift down for boost because I'm curious the fact that I cranked all those settings up, how this feels from a stop. All right, here we go. Boost, torque sensor. Oh my. Yeah, do not recommend that. Hopefully you could see in the camera, front tire just lifted completely up. All right, both wheels are on the ground now. All right, 5th gear, 6th gear. And I can just feel in boost, it's just far more responsive because I changed the settings. So yeah, no sweat, cruising into the 20s. I have to say, on some of these bumpy parts of the road, I am appreciating the front suspension fork. It feels really nice. Also the suspension Seatpost. All right, we got a flat section here. 7th gear. Let's go into 8th gear. Let's see if we can hit 28. There's 25. Again, really windy right now. There's 27. And there's 28 miles an hour. I mean, I'm certainly working my legs, but not a ton. I would say mid-20s, pretty easy to do, depending on your ability level. I just got a notice on my bike. It says, low pedaling efficiency, shift to 5th gear. That's kind of a fun thing to remind newer riders what you should be doing on a mid-drive bike. All right, so I already talked about the front suspension fork and the suspension Seatpost. The seat, very comfortable. Not something I think a lot of people are going to want to switch out because it feels pretty good. And the adjustable stem with the swept-back handlebars, it's just a nice cruising bike. Velotric has certainly listened to what people want. Let's do a quick brake test here. Yeah. These Tekturo hydraulic disc brakes perform just fine. I mean, they're on so many e-bikes at this point. All right, and after boost, we have auto. So let's see how that performs. I've tried it on some e-mountain bikes and I've liked it. Right now I'm in 6th gear, cruising at 15 miles an hour. I do have it in class 2 mode. There's 7th gear. So still very easy to cruise at 20 miles per hour. Generally with an auto pedal assist, I think it's just hard to dial in what the speed is going to be in every pedal assist level. Let's say I just want to cruise nice and slow. I mean, right now I'm in 5th gear, barely providing any effort, and I'm at 11 miles an hour. So I guess if that's where you want to cruise and then you do still want to hit 20, you can do that. Let's go into class 3 and see if we can hit class 3 speeds. There's 21. Shift up, there's 8th gear. So yeah, on the top end, I don't really notice too much of a difference. It doesn't seem any harder to hit 28 miles per hour, but that is auto pedal assist on the Discover M. All right, we are almost to the hill climb test, but one of the nice things about this bike, because it doesn't have street tires, if your path takes you a little off-road, it's still doable. I mean, certainly do not take this bike on a mountain bike trail, but crushed gravel, it's going to be more capable, especially with that front suspension fork, maybe soaking up better than a comparable coil suspension fork, some of the small bumps. All right, with that, let's get to the hill climb test. All right, the GoPro makes this hill look so much smaller than it is. So I'll put these specs on the screen. Throttle only up this hill. You can watch the Discover 3 up this same hill, and I can certainly hear that motor. I'm in 1st gear. I'm reluctant to shift up, and this motor is just cranking. No problem going up this hill on throttle alone. Let me shift it. I'm going to release the throttle just for a second. There we go. And yeah, 2nd gear, just a little bit better, 12 miles per hour. But just be mindful of what gear you're in. All right, so a powerful mid-drive. I think that has been proven. Let's go back down the hill and I'll go up while pedaling. I have it in Eco. We'll use the torque sensor to start with, and we'll see if we need to switch to the cadence sensor. I don't know, the motor is pretty powerful. All right, and in second gear, I mean, yeah, this motor with the stock settings, you get a lot of power. I mean, I could shift down and make it even easier on myself, but I could cruise up at 5 miles an hour. I'm barely putting in any effort, and you might have noticed just a little bit extra power from my legs. The torque sensor is pretty touchy, and still in Eco, you get a decent boost. Let's go into trail, still cruising up at around 6 miles an hour. I imagine though, if I put in a little bit more power, we'll go even faster. Let's go into sport. I'm going to try to shift up to second gear there. And yeah, I would say it's even more touchy because you're in a higher pedal assist level, and 10 miles an hour, not a problem. Let's go into boost. And so if I'm just gently spinning my legs, it seems like I'm getting about the same power in every pedal assist level, but then just that extra little bit. I mean, I almost felt the front tire lifting up again. And of course, shifting up is going to make it easier for you to provide a little bit more power. So this thing has no problem with hills. All right, with that, let's get into some third-person riding footage. I'll give you the key considerations of the Velotric Discover M. The Discover M builds on what I'm going to guess is Velotric's best seller, the Discover series. Though this is the first time it gets a mid-drive, in fact, it's a first for any e-bike in the Velotric lineup. At $24.99, you're largely paying for that mid-drive experience, though you're also getting a slightly nicer Shimano CUES drivetrain, an air fork with rebound adjustment, and a different tire spec compared to the Discover 3. It's also worth noting the larger battery here, 16.7 amp hours on the Discover M versus the 15.2 amp hours on its sibling. The Discover M's primary focus is being a comfortable cruising e-bike. I mentioned the front suspension fork, but it's also the suspension Seatpost and better than average saddle that only add to the comfort. Plus you have the swept-back handlebars and an adjustable stem. Rounding out the package are the fenders and a rear rack with MIC compatibility. Basically, Velotric wants to make sure you're not wanting for more when it comes to components. I also appreciate they're offering 2 sizes and a step-through design, making it accessible for a wider range of riders. And while it still features a cadence sensor, the torque sensor felt really great. That's truly where this bike shines. The tire choice, along with some of the other component choices, make this bike feel more capable off-road than some other e-bikes in its class that really prioritize street riding. Velotric's attention to detail bleeds through to the display and tech. The 3.5-inch display is among my favorites on any e-bike I've tested for its sheer size. It's easy to read even with the wealth of information it provides. Velotric also gives both Android and iPhone users peace of mind with Find My and Android Find Hub. The NFC keys are a nice security touch, but where this bike really stands out is the depth of customization, a new level for the brand. You can customize each pedal assist level, tweak top speed settings for both pedal assist and throttle, switch between e-bike classes with a press of a button, and quickly swap between the torque and cadence sensor. I'm not sure any other brand is offering this level of control in such an easy-to-use package. My big takeaway from the Discover M was just how powerful this motor really is. As I rode this bike even more and tested the ride tune, I actually ended up turning the eco settings down to the lowest possible level. That set me up for a nice comfortable cruise in the heart of the city. Think lots of stoplights and stop signs where you aren't hitting top speeds. I was able to cruise in the low teens while still putting in a decent amount of effort, which is exactly what I like on a mid-drive. Those higher assist levels are great for tackling significant hills and riding at higher speeds, but for general cruising, most owners will probably want to tone it down. I'd actually like to see Velotric adjust these default settings through an over-the-air update. I think new riders would prefer a mellower start, leaving advanced users to unlock the full potential if they want. In boost mode with the settings cranked, it was actually a bit crazy. I kind of knew what I was getting myself into, but definitely be careful in those lower gears. One thing to keep in mind, and this applies to all mid-drive e-bikes if they have a throttle at all, if you plan to be a heavy throttle user or don't want to worry about what gear you're in when you hit the throttle, the Hub Drive Discover 3 might be the better fit for you. Remember, if you're planning to purchase a Velotric, you can save some money by using our code and the link in the description, or simply scan the QR code on your screen now. It's great to see Velotric testing the waters with the mid-drive. I imagine how this one sells will determine which other models get the mid-drive treatment in the future, or maybe what new models Velotric decides to develop. Let me know what you think of the Discover M in the comment section below, and I'll see you in the next one.